Like a lot of people, there are times when I want to relax. Moments where I want to cut back, put all my problems on hold for a minute, and just enjoy myself without having to worry about anything. Everyone has their means of coping, and for me, that has always been either watching or playing something. Like a lot of people, I find it relaxing to just lose myself in the fictional world of a show or video game and just forget about everything for a few peaceful minutes. I say this because it was a sort of thinking of mine that ultimately led to me playing Valhalla. Properly called VA-11 Hall A, the game billed itself as a cyberpunk bartending simulator, and I have to admit, that caught my attention. Bar settings have always been a unique point of interest for me, since they've always been the place characters go in a story to get away from their problems. Adventurers stop at a tavern after adventuring, adults go for a drink after a hard day's work. It's the sort of place you see in between stories rather than being featured in one, and building an entire game around a place like that leaves all sorts of room for interesting ideas. It's kind of funny that to escape my own daily grind, I play a game about precisely that, and Valhalla really is just that. It's a game about people unwinding after a day's work. The dystopian world the game carefully crafts is the sort of place that could have easily been the setting of some mystery or action game instead, but that's not really what Valhalla is trying to be. It's not the story of someone out to brave or change a corrupt world. It's a tale of some people simply trying to get by and maybe easing someone else's woes along the way. And there's something about that just feels really relaxing to me. At its core, despite being billed as a bartending simulator, it would probably be more accurate to call Valhalla a conversation simulator. You are at a bar and you do make drinks for people, but it's mainly a pretext so that you can meet and talk with the game's vibrant cast of unique and memorable characters. There is a plot, but again, that's not really what the game is about. What it's about is a woman named Jill showing up to work and just dealing with anyone who happens to go through the doors of VA-11 Hall A. Sometimes it'll be regulars who just like to engage in some playful banter or flirting. One day, a famous celebrity or some corporate big shot might enter. Another, you might find and meet someone who's just bizarre. No matter who though, it's your job to tend to their drinking needs, and the game goes above and beyond in making each one feel like a fully realized and engaging character in their own right. No matter who it might be though, it's your job to tend to their drinking needs, and the game goes above and beyond in making each one feel like a fully realized and engaging person in their own right. What really helps this are some varied and interesting character designs. The game draws a lot of its artistic influences from anime and cyberpunk, which, when blended with the game's brilliant pixel art, leaves you with some memorable and, in some cases, downright fantastic designs. There's always a sense that even if you don't like a particular character, they feel real in their design and personality, which is a serious accomplishment for a game where over 90% of your time will be spent seeing these characters talk and bounce off one another. Whether you like or hate them, each character always has something interesting to bring to the table. It was always a delight to start a new night of work and to see what quirky face would show up next, and a lot of this is thanks in no small part to the stellar character that is our protagonist, Jill. As a 27-year-old who just sort of ended up bartending, she instantly strikes a familiar and relatable chord as this sort of every woman. There's a sense that she's just some girl who, for one reason or another, things just didn't work out for her. That's not to say she dislikes working at Valhalla, mind you, just that the road to getting there was not one she expected. Even so, she clearly enjoys what she does, and despite her snarky remarks, there's a clear love she has in talking with people, and a lot of the game's charm just comes from how well she bounces off the rest of the cast. Whether it's the mutually sarcastic banter with her coworker Gil, the obvious crush she harbors for her boss Dana, or the strong friendship she forms with several of the bar's regulars, Jill forms real relationships through her conversations with these people, and it's these relationships that come to define both Jill and those she talks with. For an example, let's look at Dorothy. Like everyone else in the game, she's the sort of character that immediately draws her attention. Despite looking like a child, she is in fact a fully grown AI who just happens to have a child's body by choice. She works as what is essentially a prostitute, using her childlike body to appeal to an untapped niche market. With a setup like that, I initially expected her to be this cunning or jaded person. A woman who was forced into a life she didn't want by the world around her, but the truth is, she's the exact opposite. Dorothy approaches her job with a sort of childlike giddiness and enthusiasm that you don't really see a lot of, always being professional but never being ashamed of what she does either. In her conversations with Jill, there's this constant sense of playfulness where she tells lewd jokes or absurd stories to get a reaction from those around her. And on Jill's side of things, she doesn't judge Dorothy for any of it, which is why Dorothy likes her in the first place. Even though she's selling her body, she seems totally fine with it, and it's hard not to root for her. In a lot of other games, that would be where her character would end. She'd be the one-note quirky girl who tells increasingly absurd stories about depraved sex with a giddy smile. But then she goes and does something really surprising. You see, later in the game there's a period where Jill is depressed by some sad news about someone very close to her. Her friends are worried and she clearly needs someone to help. Some people try a few things, but it's ultimately Dorothy who steps up and spends an entire night hugging and consoling her. It's a sort of endearing moment that really demonstrates her friendship with Jill in a tangible way beyond the bar. And while it may not fix the problem entirely, it's a standout moment for her as a character. Not to mention it helps set the stage for later on when Jill has to return the favor. See, Dorothy is an AI. A really elaborate, self-aware one, but ultimately an AI nonetheless. And there comes a moment in the game where she starts to ponder the meaning of her own existence. Pondering your own existence is a horrifying feeling that I think a lot of people can relate to, but as something that is actually man-made, it makes Dorothy freak out. Even if it's just for a moment, she loses her touch on reality. Like Jill, there's a clear sense that she needs some help, and depending on what you do, she gets it. The thing about this exchange, as well as Dorothy as a character, is while it might sound like I just cherry-picked a good character to highlight, the fact is that this applies to literally every character in the game. Some may get more screen time than others, yes, but there's always a sense that there's a story there. Some story that has yet to be told, or in some cases, maybe it already happened. I love how obvious it is that Gil has some sort of incredible and complicated past, mainly because you never get a clear answer on just what it is. I love how you meet a strange robot one night who can see a ghost that only Jill sees, only for her to leave and never show up again. It's these sort of mysteries that leave you wanting to learn more about these characters, all the while giving you just enough information to make your own speculations. Whether or not you run into someone at the bar, things still happen. No matter what you say or do, time goes on and these people have lives. Sure, sometimes you can be the one to help sort out all their problems, but other times you're just seeing their story play out. As excited as I was to meet new people each night, I was also excited to see familiar faces, just so I can hear about whatever new thing had happened since I last saw them. Life is hard for everyone, and it's part of Jill's job as a bartender to help them forget about it for a little bit. While it is very clearly a visual novel style game, Valhalla doesn't actually rely on traditional dialogue choices like most games in the genre do. For the most part, the game is strictly linear, with the only real thing affecting anything is how well you fulfill your orders. Usually it's as simple as giving people what they ask for, but there are times when the game tries to trip you up. Some orders are posed as riddles. Other orders might call for you to remember something someone mentioned in a previous night. Sometimes it's not about following the order at all, and instead giving someone a drink they desperately need rather than the one they want. It's these little nuances that help to spice up what's otherwise some very simple and repetitive gameplay. Everyone has unique tastes, and based on whatever the situation is, you may need to make a judgment call. Do you give someone the drink they loudly ask for, or the one they're too embarrassed to order? Your decisions in some of these moments can affect how the story goes in the long run, as well as your relationships with any given character. Granted, some of the puzzles can be a bit counterintuitive, particularly those featuring the delightful but bizarre Virgilia. Whenever you aren't working at the bar, you're at Jill's apartment where you can toy with a couple minigames, read some news articles, or just buy some stuff to help spruce the place up. It's nothing fancy, but they're the sort of small details that help to make the game world feel that extra little bit more real. It's also here where you can purchase more songs that you can play during your shifts at the bar. As silly as it might sound, one of my favorite things is actually how at the start of each night, you can make a playlist of your favorite songs and listen to them as you work. It became something I look forward to, and I quickly developed my own little nightly ritual to start each of my nights with Welcome to Valhalla and end with Meet the Staff. The game offers enough songs and customization options that there's bound to be something you stick with. And that's really all there is to say about the game. Valhalla is a game about serving drinks and talking. I could go on and list some of the things the characters talk about or some of the elements of the plot, but I think that's all stuff better left for those to play the game and find out for themselves. Valhalla isn't the sort of game that'll change your life or is a must-have or anything like that. In fact, it's not meant to be that by design. But if you're ever in a mood where you just want to relax and see some neat characters talk about some neat things, then you'd be hard-pressed to find something better. I can't remember the last time a visual novel made me laugh and smile as much as this one did, and if it sounds like it's up your alley, then I bet you will too. Hey, if you're actually out there listening to this, then I just wanted to say thanks for watching my video. I had a lot of fun making it, and Valhalla is really the sort of game that deserves all the attention it can get. I can only hope you liked the video too. I tried to avoid spoiling as much of it as I could, but if you're interested, I actually did write a little article talking about one of the things I like most about the game. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. Aside from that, I'd love to hear some feedback about how I did. I'm still learning a lot about making videos, but it's something I think I want to keep trying, so every little bit helps. If not, well, like I said, thanks for watching anyway. Take care, and I wish you the best.